Well, hello everyone, welcome back guys. Hope you all are doing well. This is Mohammad Badruddin and today we are going to start another advanced web security vulnerability module named as WebSockets. So it is very interesting. Why? Because through these WebSocket vulnerabilities, an attacker or a threat actor will be able to find out the vulnerabilities which is client side as well as server side. So through this channel, you can exploit client-side vulnerabilities, also server-side vulnerabilities if they exist. That's why it is very severe. So before going further or before going to the labs, this is very important to understand what are WebSockets, how these work, and what is the difference between HTTP and WebSockets. Okay, where we can use these WebSockets, for what purpose these WebSockets are used. So let's go, and first of all we will see what are WebSockets. So WebSockets are a bidirectional full duplex communication protocol initiated over HTTP, or you can say it is a two-way communication session initiated over HTTP. So they are commonly used in modern web application for streaming data and other asynchronous traffic. WebSocket protocols are TCP based protocol, and similarly same like HTTP is insecure, and to make it secure we use HTTPS with SSL or TLS. Similarly here we can also use these WebSocket communication session or channels with the SSL and TLS. So whenever we are going to say I'm going to show you one thing, which is like here, if I say http:// something.com like this, and once we use the WebSocket we say ws:// something.com like this. And similarly if we use the secure channel, okay, so we say something.com HTTP with HTTPS. Similarly here for WebSocket we use ws:// something.com like this. Okay, so second thing is, what is the difference between HTTP and WebSockets? I would highly recommend you guys to read this full content because it is very important. I will give you the high level overview here. Now here, what is the difference between HTTP and WebSocket? So most communication between web browsers and website uses HTTP. Okay, with HTTP the client sends a request and the server returns a response. This is the typical communication between your web browser and the web server. So typically the response occurs immediately and the transaction is complete. Fine, but what happened in the case of WebSocket? WebSocket connections are initiated over HTTP and are typically long-lived. Messages can be sent in either direction at any time and are not transactional in nature. And that's why WebSockets mostly use with the chat applications or chat APIs. Okay, so WebSockets are particularly useful in situations where low latency or server initiated messages are required, such as real-time feed of financial data. Okay, and most of the time you will also see the use of WebSockets in the chat applications or chat APIs. So how are WebSocket connections established? So in the application, if you are going to mention it in the JavaScript, you can say a variable named as WS, so equal to new WebSocket and WSS. This WSS means secure WebSocket, or you can say WebSocket, secure WebSocket. Fine. And if you see here only WS, that means it is not secured. Fine. So the WSS protocol establishes a WebSocket over an encrypted TLS connection, while the WS protocol uses unencrypted connection. To establish the connection, the browser and server performs a WebSocket handshake over HTTP, and you will see the request like this. If the server is using WebSocket, okay, you will see this upgrade header in the request, and this upgrade header value is going to be WebSocket, and in the response you will see also upgrade, its value is going to be WebSocket, and you will see secure WebSocket accept, sec WebSocket accept, something like this, which is going to be its token. Okay, so here is the thing. Here you can see the connection and upgrade headers in the request and response indicate that this is a WebSocket handshake. So you will see connection and upgrade, connection and upgrade. This is the response header and this is in the request. Fine. So these two headers you are most likely to see in the request and responses when it's using WebSockets. The second is sec WebSocket version. This is the request header specifies the WebSocket protocol version that the client wishes to use. This is typically equal to 13. And if you see sec WebSocket key, this request header contains a base 64 encoded random value, okay, which should be randomly generated in each handshake request. Fine. So for every handshake request, this value is going to be changed because it is randomly generated. And last but not least, you are going to most likely see sec WebSocket accept response header that contains a hash value submitted to the key, which is here response header. Okay, and this is again the hash value request header, okay, with a specific string defined in the protocol specification. And this is done to prevent misleading responses resulting from misconfigured servers or caching proxies. How these WebSockets send and receive data. So there is one little example. So like here, as you can see, you created a variable ws, which is a WebSocket, and this is the URL for WebSocket. But when it's going to send the data, so it is going to send the data in this form. ws.send means WebSocket.send, and this is the message it's sending. Fine. In principle, WebSocket message can contain any content or data format. In modern application, it is most commonly used. JSON is most commonly used. So there is the JSON format of it. You can see user and the username is this, content is going to be this, like this. Fine. So now back here, now we will see testing for the WebSocket security vulnerabilities. So highly recommend to go through this whole content. Okay, and what I mentioned before, which is this scenario, why this WebSocket vulnerability, if the WebSocket connections or WebSocket communication sessions or channels are vulnerable, at that instant it is going to be very severe. Why? Because it gives you the surface from where you can exploit the client side vulnerabilities as well as server side vulnerabilities. So I'm not going to put this WebSocket vulnerability into client side or server side, because this gives you a surface from where you can find out the server side vulnerabilities and exploit it successfully, and you can also find out the client side vulnerabilities or server side vulnerabilities, and you can exploit it. That's why it's very severe. So client side vulnerabilities like XSS, CSRF, and server side vulnerabilities like SQLI, XXE, SSRF, and so on. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we are going to solve lab number 1. Here actually it's mentioning how you can handle the WebSocket request in your burp proxy or burp suite with the burp suite repeater. So this is all of the technical aspects on burp suite, which we are going to see when we solve the lab, right? But I will recommend you to just read it once, so you will have the idea that how you are going to handle these WebSocket requests, because there is a little bit difference handling HTTP request in the burp suite and WebSocket request in the burp suite, right?